Today is Monday, June the 12th, 2023. I am Mark Beavis. We have lots of news to get to today. The big news in Canada is in the mining sector. We're going to talk about that. Plus, we're going to talk about the U.S. Federal Reserve Board, which is going to announce its rate decision in a couple of days. We're going to preview that. Is the worst behind us in the U.S. regional bank troubles? We're going to look at what the insiders are buying to give you some clues. We're also going to hear about George Soros, Netflix, and the latest numbers out of China. So let's just get started right now. Big news in the Canadian mining sector. In a statement that was issued just this morning, Glencore has offered to pay cash for the coal business segment of Teck Resources. In their statement, they confirmed that they've submitted a proposal this morning to the Teck Board of Directors. Didn't mention a price, but back in April, they estimated the value of Teck coal assets to be at around $8.2 billion. So a lot of analysts are assuming that this will be the price of the proposal. Now, Teck is the world's second largest seaborne exporter of metallurgical coal. Glencore is the largest exporter of thermal coal. Now, Teck has confirmed this morning they are engaging with Glencore about the proposal, but they stress that the deal is still very preliminary, it's conditional, and they say that it is non-binding. They also note that there is no deal imminent, and they're going to continue to consider other proposals. Moving on now to the U.S. Federal Reserve Board. On Wednesday, they will make their latest interest rate announcement. Odds are currently 70% that the Fed will pause for the first time in 10 straight meetings and that they will not raise interest rates this month. Big question, though, is whether this might be a skip or might be a pause. And the difference that's being discussed is this. If there's a pause, that will suggest that they will hold rates going forward. A skip, on the other hand, implies that there will be a pause now, but more interest rates hikes to come. There's obviously going to be a lot of discussion and a lot of chatter about this in the next 48 hours. I will be back here on Wednesday with the actual decision. I want to move now to U.S. regional banks. And as we all know, the past few months have been very, very difficult for U.S. regional banks. But there are signs that just maybe the worst is behind us. The number of U.S. regional bank insiders who have been purchasing shares in their own companies has reached a 3-year high during the second quarter. This, to me, obviously can be a vote of confidence for the sector in itself. Through June 26, 778 insiders made purchases. That's the highest number that we've seen since the first quarter of 2020, which of course was obviously when there was the COVID outbreak. The bank shares all plummeted, and a lot of these insiders at the time stepped up to snap up cheap shares, as we can see now. As an example, in the most recent round here, SoFi CEO Anthony Noto has made 6 separate stock purchases since the most recent bank crisis. So I'm not sure whether this means that the dust has all settled, but it looks like the bigwigs of these companies are betting that it is. On Sunday, George Soros, the 92-year-old multi-billionaire, he told the Wall Street Journal that he will be handing control of his empire over to his son, Alexander Soros. Now, a lot of you will know Soros as a hedge fund manager. He's also a major backer of liberal causes. In fact, he directs around $1.5 billion a year to groups that are backing human rights around the world. His empire currently is estimated to be around $25 billion. His son, Alex, is only 37 years old, and his father says that he has earned the right to manage the foundation going forward. Now, for those of you who are more right-leaning on the political spectrum, I wouldn't get your hopes up that this is going to put an end to those huge political donations that Soros is so famous or infamous for making. As far as Alex is concerned, he says he's actually even more political than his dad. And he plans to continue to donate the family money back to these left-leaning U.S. political candidates. In a statement, he says, "As much as I would love to get money out of politics, as long as the other side is doing it, we will have to do it too." Moving on to China trade, the latest numbers are just out, and they show that exports fell 7.5% from a year earlier in May, and imports were down 4.5%. This adds fuel to the argument that the economic recovery is in fact slowing in China. Back in December, you'll remember when the country lifted its anti-virus controls, China showed very strong economic numbers, but this most recent data shows that retail spending has been slowing at a rate that is more than has been expected. Interesting news regarding Netflix. They told us, of course, back in 2022 that they were going to start cracking down on password sharing, and we've certainly felt the impact of that here in Canada. The company says that they estimate more than 100 million households worldwide share an account. Well, in the US, the early results on the new plan to boost its bottom line it actually seems to be paying off. So far, according to streaming analytics company Antenna, Netflix has seen more new subscribers since the crackdown than it did even during the early days of COVID. It reported that Netflix has had its 4 single largest days of new user signups in the US since they began measuring the service. For example, on both May 26th and May 27th, Netflix added 100,000 new accounts. Shares of Netflix are up 42% year to date. Now, more news to come later this week. Tomorrow, the U.S. Consumer Price Index numbers for May will come in. Wednesday, of course, we talked about the U.S. Fed interest rate decision, and the U.S. Producer Price Index, the PPI for May, will also come in. I will be back in 2 days, Wednesday, June the 14th. I will have those numbers for you. I'll also talk, of course, about any new major stories that have crept up since then. I will remind you to subscribe, hit notifications so you're there on Wednesday morning. I thank you for watching this video. I'll see you in a couple of days.